All right, so today we're going to dive into something. Vlog scripting.
Ooh.
And I know that can be like a little intimidating,
Yeah.
especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to unpack this guide from blogwidow.com.
Okay.
It's called Vlog Scripting Tips for Beginner Creators.
Mhm.
It was published March 1st, 2025, so pretty recent. And it is absolutely packed with information. I mean, it's a really, really dense guide. So, what we're going to try to do is extract the absolute essentials. Like, what do you absolutely need to know to start scripting your vlogs, even if you've, never scripted anything before?
Love that.
Yeah. And a couple of the things that really jumped out at me when I was reading it was the importance of a strong hook, this idea of writing like you talk, and why you don't want to overscript. So, I mean, there's so much good stuff in here. But, before we get into the specific tips, I'm kind of curious to get your take on this. Like,
Yeah.
why does this even matter? Why should someone care about scripting their vlogs, especially if they're not, trying to become the next big YouTube star or whatever?
Well, I think this is one of those things where it's like, yes, it applies to blogging, but really it's about communication skills. And communication skills are essential for everything. Whether you are presenting at work or making an online course or heck, even just like making vacation videos for your family, if you can communicate clearly and in an engaging way, that's going to benefit every area of your life.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think this guide really gets at the kind of the key elements of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you communicate effectively, regardless of the medium? And it actually outlines 7 tips for beginners. And the first one is all about starting with an outline. And, I know that sounds kind of basic, but they really stress the importance of this, especially for beginners. What are your thoughts on that?
I think for beginners this is essential. It's like you're building a house, right? You don't want to just start slapping up boards. You need a blueprint, and an outline is your blueprint for your vlog. It helps you stay focused. It helps you make sure you hit all your key points, and it really, really, really helps you from rambling or going off on tangents, which is, I think, a big thing for beginners.
That's so true. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to get like lost in the weeds when you're trying to like create something,
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I want to talk about this. And and then this. And then, pretty soon you're like 20 minutes in and you haven't even gotten to your main point.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because they also talk about crafting a compelling hook in the article, which I think also kind of plays into that anxiety a lot of beginners feel, right? Like it's intimidating to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And then you only have a few seconds to really grab the viewer's attention.
Exactly. The hook is so important because, you really do only have those first few seconds to grab people. And the article uses a great example. They start out by saying, did you know the average person spends more than 5 hours a day watching online videos? And right away, that's like, whoa, 5 hours a day. That's crazy. Like immediately, it's like a surprising fact that makes you want to keep watching. And then they tie it back into the topic of vlogging by saying, stick around to find out how to create videos that will keep viewers coming back for more. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a really simple formula, but it's so effective.
Yeah. And it plays on our natural curiosity, right?
Exactly.
Like if you hear a statistic like that, you're like, well, wait a minute. I want to know more.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And speaking of keeping things engaging, the next tip is all about writing like you talk,
Hmm.
which I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up because they try to be too formal.
Hmm.
They try to sound really academic or like, really buttoned up, and it just ends up feeling really unnatural in a vlog.
Totally, totally. Vlogs they're supposed to be authentic, right? They're supposed to be about connection. So like instead of saying something like the aforementioned product boasts a plethora of innovative features, you could just say this thing has some really cool features,
Wow.
So it's making it more conversational and less like you're reading from a textbook.
Way better. Way
Yeah.
better. And this brings me to the next point, which is don't overscript.
Hmm.
I remember when I first started making videos, I would like try to script every single word. And it just ended up sounding so robotic. And like I was reading a teleprompter or something.
Yeah.
It felt so rehearsed and kind of, I don't know, just lifeless.
Yeah, it's a common trap that people fall into. It's
Yeah.
like you want to be prepared, but you don't want to be so scripted that you sound like a robot. So the guide actually suggests using bullet points for your key ideas instead of writing out full sentences.
Oh, that's good.
So that way you have a structure to follow, but you're not locked into specific wording, and it allows you to be more spontaneous.
Yeah, it's like it's finding that balance between like being prepared, but also like letting your personality come through.
Right. Exactly.
And the next tip actually kind of builds on that. It's about including a call to action, which, it seems like a simple thing, but it's something that a lot of people forget, especially when you're first starting out. You're so focused on like just getting the content out there that you don't always think about what you want the viewer to do next.
Exactly. And calls to action are so important, and it doesn't have to be pushy or anything like that. It's just a way of guiding your viewer. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to subscribe? Do you want them to leave a comment? Like, tell them.
Yeah. The article makes a good point that it doesn't have to be, salesy or anything like that. It can be as simple as, like, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Exactly. Just, keeping that conversation going, keeping people engaged.
Right. Right. And speaking of keeping people engaged, the next tip is about timing your script,
Okay.
which this one really resonates with me because I have a tendency to ramble.
Sure.
And I can just talk and talk and talk. And it's easy to lose track of how long something is getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the article makes the point that modern viewers have very short attention spans.
Oh, yeah.
So you really need to keep your vlogs concise and to the point.
Absolutely. And I think, practicing sections aloud can really help you get a feel for that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, are there any parts that are dragging on too long? How does it actually feel when you say it out loud? Because reading it in your head is very different than actually hearing yourself say it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's so easy to get lost in your own head.
Hmm.
You're like, oh, this sounds good. This flows well. But then you say it out loud and you're like, whoa, this is way longer than I thought it was.
Right.
And then finally, the last tip they give is to practice and rehearse, which, it seems obvious,
Yeah.
but it's something that a lot of people skip over,
Yeah. Especially when you're first starting out.
especially when you're first starting out and you're like nervous. You just want to like get it done.
Yeah.
But, I think practice really does make a difference, especially when it comes to on-camera confidence,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
Like, I could definitely relate to that. Like, my first few videos, oh my gosh, they were so awkward. I just felt so self-conscious, so stiff.
Mm.
And it took a lot of practice to just get comfortable in front of the camera.
Sure, sure. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And
Correct.
and they recommend, practicing in front of a mirror, recording yourself, even getting feedback from friends and family.
Yeah, it's like anything, right? Like, the
Mm.
more you do it, the more comfortable you become.
Exactly.
And this kind of leads perfectly into the next section of the article, which is all about SEO optimization and long-tail keywords. Now, I know SEO can sound really intimidating,
Hmm.
but they actually do a really good job of breaking it down in a way that's easy to understand.
Good.
And they really emphasize the importance of long-tail keywords, which, those are basically those longer, more specific phrases that people are actually searching for online.
Mm.
Like, instead of just using the keyword vlogging, you might use vlogging scripting tips for beginners,
Right, right.
something like that.
Yeah.
And they give some good examples in here of how to incorporate those keywords naturally, like, not just like stuffing them into your video title or description, but actually weaving them into the content itself.
Right, right. You don't want to sound like a robot, just like, keyword, 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 but
Right.
using them naturally can really make a difference.
Right. So, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway is that vlog scripting is really about organization and clarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being rigid, It's not about like sticking to a script word for word. It's about having a tool to help you create more engaging content.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's about realizing these are skills that are transferable,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's not just about making a vlog. This can help you in so many areas of your life, whether it's, like we said, presentations or online courses or even just, telling stories at a party.
Yeah, yeah. That's what's so exciting about it. It's like you're becoming a better communicator overall,
Yeah,
which is, something that can really benefit anyone.
absolutely. Yeah, it's like we're cracking the code to good communication. And you're right, it does go way beyond just YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you have to give a presentation at work.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think some of these scripting principles could help you there?
Oh man, I've definitely sat through some presentations that could have used a little bit of vlog scripting magic.
Yeah.
I think having a clear outline would be huge, just to like make sure you're hitting all the important points and keeping the audience engaged.
Exactly. And remember that hook we talked about,
Yeah.
starting a presentation with a captivating story or even just a thought-provoking question can really, really grab people's attention and make them want to listen to what you have to say.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Like instead of just diving straight into like a data-heavy slide or something,
Right.
you could start with a story that illustrates your point in a more memorable way.
Exactly. And think about, you can even use visuals,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Just like you might use B-roll in a vlog, you can use images or graphs or even short video clips in your presentation to really drive your point home.
Yeah, and make it more visually appealing too.
Exactly.
I'm already starting to like see how these, seemingly simple tips can make such a big difference in how you communicate.
And don't forget that call to action.
Oh yeah.
What do you want people to do after the presentation? Make it clear. Do you want them to follow up with questions? Do you want them to visit a website? Make sure you tell them what you want them to do.
Right. Yeah. Don't leave them hanging.
Exactly. Now, what about online courses?
Ooh.
You've taken some online courses, I'm sure.
I have, and some of them have been really, really dry. Like just so much information.
Right. How do you think scripting techniques could be applied to make online courses more engaging?
Oh man. Okay, so I'm thinking like you could almost treat each lesson in an online course as its own mini vlog.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like it needs that structure, it needs that engagement, it needs to be easy to follow. You could like start each lesson with a quick overview, break down complex topics into like smaller, more digestible chunks, maybe sprinkle in some visuals to like illustrate key concepts.
Exactly. Keep
Yeah.
people's attention, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? Don't forget those calls to action. Oh, yeah, yeah.
They're crucial in online courses too.
Right.
Encourage students to take quizzes, participate in discussions, actually try applying what they're learning.
Right. Make it more interactive.
Exactly. And even if you're not actually recording yourself on video for a course, those principles of scripting can still apply.
Yeah.
You can use them to write clear and concise lecture notes or create handouts or even just to write, emails to your students.
Yeah. So it's not just about creating videos, it's about like organizing your thoughts and presenting information
Right.
in a way that's easy for people to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something a little less formal,
Mm-hmm.
like just sharing stories with friends and family.
Yeah.
How do you think scripting techniques could play a role there?
Oh, man. I mean, we've all been in that situation where you're like trying to tell a story and you get sidetracked or you forget details or you just like ramble on and on and on.
Right. And the story loses its impact. Yeah. It just loses its impact.
But even in casual settings, having a basic structure in mind can really help make your stories more captivating. Think about the main points you want to hit, the order you want to present them in. Maybe sprinkle in some vivid descriptions or funny anecdotes.
Yeah, it's like you're creating a mini script in your head
Exactly.
before you even start talking.
And don't underestimate the power of a good hook, even in a casual conversation. You can start with a question or a surprising statement, something to really grab people's attention.
Yeah. Even just something as simple as, oh my God, you won't believe what happened to me today.
Exactly.
Just something to like set the stage.
And pay attention to your pacing and your delivery. You don't want to rush through the story, but you also don't want to drag it out.
Right.
Find that sweet spot.
Yeah. It's a bit of an art.
It is. It is. But it's something that you can get better at with practice.
It's amazing how these techniques can apply to like so many different aspects of communication.
Right.
From like formal presentations to just, chatting with friends.
It all boils down to being intentional with your words.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what you want to, how you want to say it, who you're saying it to.
Yeah.
And when you take the time to plan and prepare, even just a little bit, you'll be amazed at how much more confident and engaging you become as a communicator.
And that's a skill that can benefit you in like literally every aspect of your life.
Every aspect. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how like just those core principles can really elevate any form of communication.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we're unlocking this like hidden superpower.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I think it's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff, especially with vlogging.
Yeah.
People get worried about having the latest camera or the best editing software, but really that's all secondary.
It is. It is. It always comes back to the content.
The content, yeah, having that clear message and being able to deliver it in a way that really connects with people.
It makes them feel something.
It's about sharing your passion, your unique perspective. That's what really resonates.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening for me. I mean, we've gone from the basics of scripting for beginners to, like, exploring how these techniques can empower you in all sorts of situations. Like, we talked about presentations at work. We talked about online courses, even just like telling a story at a dinner party.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, but I think it all comes back to finding your voice and honing your ability to connect with others.
And that's a journey, isn't it? Like, it's something you're constantly, working on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to try some of these techniques, I encourage you to just jump in, experiment. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Find what works best for you. And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And remember, you don't have to be a, professional vlogger to benefit from this stuff.
Like whether you're presenting at work, teaching an online course, even just like sharing stories with your friends and family, these principles can really help you communicate more effectively and make a genuine connection.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
What are your biggest takeaways from this deep dive? How do you plan to apply these tips in your own life?
Yeah.
Share your thoughts, your experiences, even your struggles with us.
Let's keep this conversation going.
Exactly.
And until next time, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep sharing your unique voice with the world.